Good day, students. Welcome to the class for DPR 1507. What is important with every assignment is actually ensuring that there's a cover page, there's a declaration page that is signed by yourself and the witness. There's also a table of content, and of course, within your assignment, you are required to do in-text referencing, and then after that, provide a reference list which comes at the end of your assignment, which reflects the sources that you used in your particular assignment. What is the purpose of this class? Most importantly, just to give you information on the module. It is a semester module. The primary lecturer is Mr. T. Hlungwani, and I am a team member on this module, and I'm Dr. Silikani. We are going to speak about the media, taking into account that this module is about understanding the media, and this is your first year being introduced to media studies within the diploma in public relations. Now, important, what is the media? What is the media? In fact, we should start by saying what is mass media? And mass media is media that is used by a majority of people. In fact, it includes traditional media, which is your television, your radio, and newspapers. A majority of people were getting their information from these media in the past, taking into account that we've actually lived in terms of technology, and then now there's also social media, and of course online news, online journalism platforms. But for the purpose of understanding the media, when we speak of mass media, we speak of media that reaches a large number of the population. That is, of course, traditional media, which is the radio, it's television, and of course, newspapers. In some instances, when you speak of Western countries, developed countries, the internet in those regions is, in fact, can be regarded as mass media, because a large proportion of their population have access to the internet. So, in the African context, we can still say the internet is not a mass media, but just media. Social media is used for multiple platforms. Of connecting, sharing information, and the creation of multiple texts with people from around the world. There is a definition of, or an explanation of, what social media is. And then we deal within the studies that focus on the media. We also deal with the concept or the theory of uses and gratifications, which is abbreviated as UNG in the slides. There is a video that has been posted on the module site that gives detail into what using the background, and provides a more extensive understanding of what the uses and gratification theory is. In layman's term, in short, it's an approach that tries to understand why and how people actively seek out specific media to satisfy their needs. So people go out in demand of media content in order to satisfy a certain need, maybe to be informed, to be entertained. That is the purpose of basically user and gratification theory looks into that. There was an understanding that media audiences were passive, meaning that they didn't engage with the content that was actually provided to them. But again, that has been proven to not be the right concept or the right thinking, and we understand that audiences are active, that they do give feedback, that they do respond to what they are viewing. They are not just passive subjects that are actually captivated by what is on the screen, but they engage with content. And that is, in fact, some or a brief explanation of what the use and gratification theory deals with. We move over to focusing on the internet. Why is the internet not considered as a mass media in Africa? This also focuses on the digital divide, which is a concept that I'm going to explain as I go along. So the slow penetration of the internet in the African continent has resulted in most people not being able to use the internet. This ranges from the cost of acquiring services, and the term that refers to this is the digital divide. There's been numerous campaigns and numerous activism around the fall of data, but we know very well that if that didn't actually yield in a huge decrease of data prices within South Africa. And of course, for the purpose of this module, we have to extend that to the African continent. And what we are emphasizing is that there isn't there aren't any affordable data platforms within or network service providers within the African continent, which actually exacerbates or creates, in fact, exacerbates the digital divide between those who have the internet and those who don't have the internet. In this particular case, Africa, and of course, most developing countries reside within the African continent. So the other factors that actually lead to a digital divide within the African context, or that lead to the digital divide being so present. The statistics of internet consumption are not as high as in the already developed countries. Geographical and spatial challenges. Some places don't even have TV or radio signals within the continent. Internet, in some instances, is considered to be a city life thing. Most people get exposure when at school, and get exposure to the internet when they are at school, varsity, or work. That is the context of the African continent. And then again, what actually leads to the presence of the divide, it's the omnipresence of the digital divide, is also technological illiteracy, which is a big problem within developing countries, or in this particular context, the African continent. Now we move over to a section that deals with understanding newspapers or understanding the media. We are busy trying to paint a picture of what the media is in our introduction into this module. We speak of newsworthiness, which in fact speaks to the news, or news as being a commodity. So in the first instance, news needs to be interesting in order to attract readers or audiences. News is a commodity that needs to be sold. There are 7 elements or criteria for newsworthiness. These criteria is critical if the product is going to be referred to as news. There should be timeliness. First one is timeliness. The more recent something happened, the more relevant it is. It is good to cover a story when it's still at the earliest stage. It's quite critical to cover the story, unlike covering it after long after the event has happened. That is news. The first one to actually expose that will get more audience readers attracted to their content. Proximity also contributes to newsworthiness. Being physically near to a story makes it more interesting People are interested in stories that are actually within their proximity, or that are stories that are similar to their own lives, or that are closer to where they reside. They sort of understand or seemingly find it more realistic. Rarity of the story: a very unusual event when a man bites a dog. Rarity. So news is important when it goes out to look for rare stories or the abnormal. We move over to prominence. Minor things become interesting to readers when they happen to popular or prominent people or slash celebrities. So when they happen to celebrities, people want those stories to be covered. They are interested when a celebrity gets shot, or when a celebrity gets shot, or a celebrity dies. News entities consider that as news. The impact: basically, this is how the story affects the reader's life. The reader can relate to the story. The reader has similar problems. The reader resides in the same community. The reader resides in the same country. Readers in South Africa are currently interested in load shedding because it's our daily dilemma that we are facing as a country. So, in fact, the impact of it, that is why on a daily basis there's a yearning to be alerted on the certain stages of load shedding that we are going through, because that really affects our lives. Novelty basically means the first and the last time an, an event takes place. So this speaks to the rotation or the cycle that a particular event takes. So there's novelty because we'll say we are focusing on covering the Oscars that look into the Academy Awards, that focus on looking at the best picture, the best films that have been made in a particular year. So there's novelty around the Oscars and covering such annual events such as the Summer Awards within the South African context, or the SAFTA that look into television and film within the South African context. And then there's also human interest. The story must be interesting to human beings. There must be a human interest. Writers can virtually explore any topic as long as you make it interesting to other human beings. They need to bring emotions out of the readers. So there needs to be a human interest with every story that gets covered. Because in fact, just to basically explain it, human beings are the audience of this news content that gets created. We move over to understanding the geography around newspapers. We are looking at the fact that there's local newspapers, which might be your community newspaper. In the Val, I think there is the Bankster, there's Carltonville, I can't remember, but there's a Carltonville newspaper. They are mostly run by Caxton. Those are local newspapers. And then there's also the national. You look at the Sunday Times. You also look at the Sunday Independent. And then international newspapers would be the New York Times, which in most cases I would argue that it's read all over the world. Some individuals even subscribe to it online. So those are the examples of newspapers at the local level, at the national level, and at an international level. Now, you need to understand within the media or within the news what are breaking news. Breaking news include things like airplane crashes, bombings, and hijackings. Breaking news is bigger than hard news, as it usually is something that has a greater impact and immediacy. Breaking news can be the accident that we witnessed in Durban yesterday, where 44, I think 41 vehicles were damaged due to the negligence of a truck driver. That was a breaking story, that was breaking news. And then with regard to soft news, apologies for that. With regard to soft news focuses on, there is no agency with soft news. It's usually human interest stories. It entails happy stories that are usually inserted towards the end of the news broadcast to make the viewer smile. That is soft news. To speak of maybe a gorilla at the Johannesburg Zoo that likes to eat ice cream, or an elephant that has actually not hurt a human being in a particular scenario. Those are the examples of breaking news. We are moving over. What do you understand about social media? What is social media? Social media is a form of electronic communication through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content. Good examples are Facebook, MySpace, Twitter, etc. Some are on the screen. Another important factor to understand is the role of social media within organizations as a public relations practitioner or as a future public relations practitioner. Social media in organizations. The organization through social media receives more exposure. It can even get more clients, more increased clientele. It provides for two-way communication with stakeholders whereby feedback is given, unlike traditional media whereby feedback was not given in real time. But social media allows individuals to comment on content in some instances and get real-time feedback from the content producer. It can actually help organizations with free advertising or marketing. Important. Why is it important for social? Why is it important? Why are social networks important for PR and public relations practitioners? It helps the public relations practitioner to know the perceptions of stakeholders and audiences. It helps them, the organization, keep to date with what is happening in the industry, to be savvy of environmental changes, to keep up an update on competitors and new trends in the market or products. Now we are moving over to the issue of technical presentation when you submit your assignment. It is critical that you focus on ensuring that you use the correct spelling, that you try as much as possible to use good grammar, referencing where it is needed, because if you don't reference it, we view it as plagiarism. So if the information you got it from a source, reference the source to show that you took the information, you got the information from a certain source. And again, it shows us that you did your research, that you did actually go through a reading before you submitted your assignment, that whatever you know, you learned it from the content that is around media. There should be a cover page, a signed declaration, a table of content, and of course the reference list that comes at the end of your assignment. Remember, Within the task, you do in-task referencing. A tutorial letter has been provided, is provided at undergraduate level by the department to show you how do we reference within the Department of Communication Science. Important, this is the mark composition within the module DPR1507. Excuse me for, in fact, putting 3704, but this is for 1507, and it's similar with most modules in the diploma, in the diploma in public relations. So the first assignment weighs 30%, the second assignment 30%, which makes 60%. The formative assessments weigh more than the summative, which is the examination. The examination comes in at 40%. So it is important that you make sure that you submit each and every assignment in order to pass this particular module. Good luck with your assignment. There's been an extension that has been granted for assignment 1. If you still need to submit, please try to submit before the 13th. The last day to submit is the 13th, but we are trying to ensure that the system does not get inundated with submissions on the last day to a degree that it crashes. I'm not saying it's going to crash, but let's try as much as possible to submit as soon as we are done. Thank you very much and good luck.